On Ask the Oracle podcast today, we have the beautiful Cheryl Yambrach Rose. Today's beautiful theme is art through the eyes of the soul, awakening through art with beautiful Cheryl, infusing spirit with matter with every stroke of the brush. Join us in this captivating episode of Art Through the Eyes of the Soul, where we delve into the mystical and the transformative world of Cheryl Yambrach Rose. Renowned for her profound and spiritual artistry, Cheryl shares her journey of awakening through art and how she channels spirit into every brush stroke. From her most popular deck, the Mystique of Magdalene, to her profound connection with Magdalene, this episode promises to inspire and awaken the artist within you. Hi, Cheryl. Thank you so much for being here, my love.
Hi, Suzy. How are you today?
Really, really good.
Good.
I'm really excited to talk to you today and to delve into these questions. The first question I have for you is, can you share your journey as an artist and how that began? What inspired you to specialize in spiritual portrait painting?
Sure. My first realization that I was meant to be an artist was at age 5. You'll laugh at this, but in those days, the girls had to play in the playhouse in kindergarten, and the boys got to paint at the easels. So I
Yes.
bravely walked up to my teacher and asked her if I couldn't paint at the easels, and that was when I was just in bliss to be able to paint. And then after that, my father gave me his old oil painting box when I was 8 years old. And so as soon as I opened it and smelled the resins and the oils and the turpentine, it just like awakened something from my past lives, you know? And
Oh,
so
I
I
love
actually
that.
started painting in oils when I was 8.
And you paint oils on linen, is that right?
Mhm. Always. And I was going to bring that up later on, but linen is very, very special because science has determined that the fibers of linen, which are a yard long in their tubes, actually hold a charge. And so the artist's intention and, you know, the feeling that they had to begin with when they created the work stays in the canvas. And when you go into a museum and view original art, you can feel it, you know? And so I always try to use linen. And also, you know, the Shroud of Turin and the Egyptian mummies, they were all wrapped in linen, last
Oh,
thousands of
absolutely.
years. Yeah.
So sacred. Yes, and you're right, you can sense it and feel it, you know?
Hmm.
So beautiful. And you specialize in portrait painting, don't
Hmm.
you? And I absolutely adore your art. It's so multidimensional and it has so much depth.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, so what kind of, drew you to kind of do that beautiful portrait painting?
Well, I always started with humans because the human being as a vehicle expressed my own emotions growing up and later the emotions of things going on around me. You know, of course, through a human being, you relate, especially through the eyes. But
Yes.
when I paint a portrait, because of the way I paint it, I consider even the most traditional portrait a spiritual portrait.
Oh, I love that so much. So as an artist, your highest aspiration is the infusion into matter. How do you
Mhm.
achieve this, Cheryl?
Well, I think most visionary artists have to become vehicles that can traverse between the worlds and then be able to bring back the subtle energies and ideals and inspirations that are supposed to be infused into the matter on the physical plane. It's kind of our job.
It's like anchoring the sacred into the here and
Hmm.
now, isn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. So beautiful. What's the difference between a vision and an idea? Can you share that with our listeners?
Well, in my view, an idea is something you build on and evolve, but a vision comes through whole and complete because it already exists. And then it's just a matter of bringing it in to this level. But then I would say not everything in the astral should be brought down here. So you have to use discernment.
Yes, I think discernment is so important. Yes, having that intuitive discernment to know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Your technique of tuning in through the eyes is so fascinating to me. And I know it's going to be incredibly fascinating to the listeners. So how do you do this technique of tuning in through the eyes? It's so beautiful.
Well, I start with the eyes. And when I feel I've made a connection to the entity or person I'm painting, I start to spiral out from that central focal point. And it's like the creation of life, where even the embryo kind of builds, the cells build around it. And it just creates this vortex on the canvas that I feel like I can pass through and connect even deeper with the person or entity that I'm painting. But if that connection isn't made, I don't continue. That's why I start with the eyes, because I want to know that I'm going to continue with it. And when you make that connection, it's just really blissful because it feels like the painting paints itself.
I really adore that you start with the eyes and it all starts from that focal point, and then it becomes a blissful, creative,
Mm-hmm.
euphoric process that is just so magical. And it's so obvious when you look into your art. I love that you explained that it's a portal, like a
Mm-hmm.
vortex.
Absolutely.
And as a psychic, I really sense, um, you know, just the life through the eyes almost, yeah, like the
Mm.
spirit. It's so beautiful. Love
Yeah, that
that.
goes back to the linen because it becomes a living thing. And so the
Yes.
linen holds that charge of it being, a living thing. And sensitive people can really pick that up from an original piece of art.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I noticed that your art is very symbolic as well. So what is the
Mhm.
importance of symbols and how can we see them? How can we kind of, yeah, how can we interpret those? Or, yeah, I'd love your take on that.
That would be a long answer.
Good.
Um,
Okay. We've got time.
okay. Um, well, the subconscious mind speaks in its own language of symbols and archetypes. And
Yes.
that's because they go right in to your subconscious mind. There's not a word, letters, things that have to be translated, like a threefold process. It's immediate. And so that's why they were carved on temple walls and painted on temple walls for the initiates it's like a catalyst for them to remember why they came down to this planet or for future incarnations. And so symbols are very, very important. And the way you can see them is it starts with spirit essence. Like at night, you might see these light blue, just little tiny balls of light darting around the room.
Yes.
And then what you do is gather them together, like like gathering the chi. And eventually it will form a mass of blue light. Then you focus really delicately on this mass. Don't try to manipulate it or change it into something else. And that's hard, but just keep passively looking at it and it will start to form archetype symbols, a message from source, a being, could be almost anything. And then once in a while, there'll be a pinpoint of white light that forms in the middle of the mass. And keeping your focus, you focus on that white light and it gets brighter and brighter and brighter until even with your eyes closed, you want to blink, but you still have to maintain your focus. And then that's connection with source. And then you're really going to get a message, something that's really powerful and something that's just for you, you know? And so a lot of people will develop this ability to from lucid dreaming and
Yes,
then
yeah.
out of body experiences.
Yes, yeah. I just love the way you've explained that. I think when you go directly to source, it's pure wisdom, isn't it? It's pure love
Yeah, nothing
and
between.
nothing between. That's right. I think, you know, quite often, you know, if I'm doing a psychic reading or some psychic coaching or I'm channeling spirit or I'm, you know, writing or whatever, I often go directly to source. And I think it's just such a beautiful, clear pathway to just such insight and such wisdom. And I just love the way you explained that. And you know, have the patience to to um to kind of get into that beautiful meditative trance-like state. Don't try and make it something it's not. Wait for the answers to come. So beautiful, Cheryl. Thank you so much for kind of explaining the way you do that.
So
The
that
next quick, yeah,
detach,
yeah,
that detachment is key. You have to
yes.
really be detached and let it form.
I think detachment is so powerful, isn't it? Because it's
Mm,
not the filters and the programming and the
right.
conditioning's not taking over. We're
Mhm,
not trying to
mhm,
make it something it's not, you know, like,
mhm.
um, yeah, detachment is so beautiful. It's such a beautiful process. It does take practice, doesn't happen
Yeah,
overnight, but if you
it's
can get into
probably the
that,
hardest part. Yeah, it's the
I think
hardest part
so.
because it takes years of practice, to not let those other things in your conscious mind kind of feed into it and change it, so that really, a lot of different spiritual practices teach that, and it's really important for this kind of work.
So important. And I love that merging with spirit, you know, merging
Mm,
with that oneness consciousness, which is that infinite potential, isn't it? So,
yeah.
so beautiful. I'm really excited to know, what is your inspiration process when you're creating your art, your oracle card decks, channeling, you know, the sacred text, the words. What is your inspiration process? Can you share that with us?
Well, there's so many. Um,
It's like, where do
there's
we
so many
start, Suze? That's
paintings.
too
I know.
big.
Well, it's the way that I describe that happens at night because you need the darkness to delineate shapes against. So when it's daylight, it actually happens in a couple of different ways. And that could be manifestation, where something appears, or it could be a clairaudient experience, where you
Yes,
hear something, because there's a lot going on around you. And for spirit to communicate, they would have to either manifest a being or a situation, or you hear something just because it's a different process than it would be at night. So I've got a lot of examples of that, I've written about those in the oracle decks, etc.
yes, that's right. Um, I love the way you explained that. You know, during the day, it's a different experience to doing it at night.
Mm-hmm.
But also, you know, that manifestation process as well. Really, really lovely the way you explained that. Now, you founded the neo-mythic art style. Can you
Mm-hmm.
explain what that is? And I'm really, really very interested in that because I know that you're, yeah, I don't know. Let's talk about that.
Sure. It means the new myth. And what that is taking the old mythic stories and bringing into this field of time and space. And so sometimes you're looking at the present as history from the future, and sometimes you're looking at the past uh, from a future perspective. And so it's all wrapped up together as a new perception of the old and the new and the future. Um, I've painted quite a few of those, and a lot of them are in my
You
first deck,
have, and I wish I
Art
could
Through the
remember
Eyes of
which
the
one I
Soul.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So each one is not just a depiction of like a historical mythical story. They all are something that relates to the here and now and make it more meaningful to people, things they can use, like an oracle deck. You know, it has to be something that people can relate to now. You know, so that's why I use the path of something familiar and then go into the painting with this path of like natural colors. And then I emphasize the message with etheric colors. So each person has an interactive experience where they find the path and end up, you know, getting the message in their own particular way with what relates to them individually. And the oracle cards are like that as well. That's why they're so useful.
I love the way you bring the ancient wisdom into the here and now. It makes it more relevant somehow to where we're at. Do you feel that?
Exactly. Exactly. So I was a tour guide for 20 years in the UK, and I realized suddenly that I'd always been doing that. And the sacred sites was painting what was held within its grid, and you know, with the old history bleeding into this time frame, and then relating that to what was happening at the time. And that became so many of my images. I thought, wow, this is what I'm doing. I might as well just
Yeah.
call it Neolithic art and continue with it, you know?
Oh, that
So,
makes so much sense to me. And I love the way, you encourage people to make it relevant to their journey as well.
of course.
And of course, I love researching spiritual mythology, but I have a similar experience where, you know, let's connect to that essence, that energy, that spirit in the here and now.
Hmm.
And to hear you explain it that way gets me really super excited, because it's like, oh my goodness, Cheryl, that the way you explained it makes sense. You know, when you're doing something and you're not even really fully aware of why you do it. And you
Hmm.
just explained why we do it, which is so good. Um,
Sometimes you don't know till the end.
yes,
That
how true
happens a
is
lot. I'll
that?
be painting something and then, oh, right. You know, it's like you automatically do something, as you say, and then you find out why later. But
Yeah,
there's usually a reason, even when you have a vision, you know, and then next week something happens and that was what it was about. So yeah, I think it's a natural process for all of us.
I think it's a natural process. You're quite right. Absolutely. Um, yeah, so the Mystique of Magdalene has been out for over 2 years and
Mm,
remains your most popular deck. It even made it into the distributor's top 20 bestseller list in the UK last
mm,
June. Congratulations, my love. It's
thank
so
you.
deserving. Could you share with our listeners more about the Mystique of Magdalene and your deep connection with her? Because I absolutely find this deck exquisite.
Oh, thank you. I really loved, that was a labor of love all the way through. My husband and I were locked down in two different countries, and I was in Glastonbury, and I created the whole deck there. You know, I was just by myself and just tuned into that energy, because the first time I saw her was when I was 16, and I had this lung illness, and the doctors had sent me home and said there was no more they could do, blah blah blah. And so I had an out of body experience or a near death experience, and I was standing in front of this board of people, and she was in the middle, and she was like so compassionate. She had this enigmatic smile, like, you can't come yet. You have to go back.
Oh, wow.
And then the second time I saw her was early in the morning in Glastonbury Abbey in the Mary Chapel, which we all believe was actually the Mary Magdalene Chapel. And she appeared wearing green and a faded red scarf or dress. Sorry, I got that backwards. And she had this golden light from the sun coming up around her. And once again, she had that enigmatic smile. And I really attuned to her. That was the first Magdalene painting that I did, which I think it's in Eyes of the Soul Death, maybe not. Oh, well, anyway, it's in one of the tests. I'm on number 6. I can't remember all
I
there's
know. I'm with you
hundreds.
on that one. Yeah.
But
It's like, was
it
that that
still
or was that that?
remains,
Yeah.
yeah, it still remains so powerful to me because of that experience. And then I saw her here in Mount Shasta a couple of times, and it's such an incredible experience. I can't really describe it in words, so I kept painting her. And then when I decided to do the deck, I thought, you know, why not? And I know it could be partly controversial to religious people and whatnot, but I really felt it needed to be stated where she's an equal creator
Yes.
spiritually with Yeshua, and how they had a beautiful spiritual partnership of equals. And we need that. That's another neomythic thing, is we need that here in the here and now, the equality between men and women.
I think it's so
So
needed in the here and now.
mm,
And, they have that beautiful sacred union, which is
right.
so, equal, reciprocal. Um, and yes, exactly. Exactly. I think it's, the way you've brought that through, I think is incredibly healing and needs to be out there. Absolutely. Mm.
I'm very, very grateful that it is.
Yes. I love that you've had that deep connection with her for so many years.
Yeah.
And I find it really interesting too that you live in two very sacred places in the world. So do you share your time between Glastonbury and Mount, I
Mount
keep,
Shasta. Yeah, Mount
yeah,
Shasta.
you do?
I'm
Yeah.
I'm here now. The snow's starting to melt, so we're all very happy. So we're moving back to Glastonbury as soon as we leave here. We did a short time in Northern Ireland, but it's just too cold and dark. So we're
Yes.
going back
Yeah.
to Glastonbury where I feel I belong.
I feel a really strong connection to sacred sites around the planet, and I've been to many of them. And do you feel that, when you connect to the land that you're working on, do you feel it deepens the work you're doing, Cheryl?
Absolutely. Because things would come through there in the physical area because it is holding that memory in its grid
Yes,
that you wouldn't get like from watching it on television or looking at a book. You wouldn't get it unless you're actually there physically receiving it. So it's very inspirational. That's why I did tours for so many years before I lived in Glastonbury, because I loved it so much. I just really related to the ancient megaliths in the landscape, and especially my past lives I know I had there, and the whole Arthurian. I
yes,
won't call it a myth, but there's just a lot of history there. I think Britain's been there for a very long time.
a very
It's
long
survived
time.
a lot of earth changes, and so it's holding a lot of Atlantean energy as well. So does Ireland.
Oh, beautiful. Yes. I love, when you explained as a 5-year-old and you smelt the paints for the first time and it awakened, that past life memory for you. Do you feel like you've been an artist, channel, you know, beautiful, wise woman, like forever, like over many lifetimes?
I know I was an artist many times. I know I was a pre-Raphaelite. I couldn't tell you which one. And I know that I lived in the 6th century, and I know I was a monk maybe twice,
Yes.
uh, painting in the scriptorium. When I go into the scriptorium in the ruins of
Yes.
Glastonbury Abbey, I feel at home. But I also saw my own death there once, but I was painting this. Oh, it was so not crude, but naive painting in this octagon-shaped chapel, and I had to laugh because it was so bad, you know. And then I saw a flash of steel. It's out of my body watching this, actually. Of it was a Dane. He came in, and you know,
Yes.
so I was a monk then, and that by the style of that painting, I would say it would be about 11th century. So we've had a lot of lives here, you know.
Yes. Yeah. So Atlantean, love that. Do you feel a connection to Avalon? I suppose you do, being in that part of the world, or
Avalon is my heart home.
your heart home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mount Shasta is like a temple without walls. You know, you see the
Yes.
mountain looming as you come up from down south, and your back gets straight, and you feel like you're going into the temple of initiation. But, you know, because it's not easy to live here. And they
No.
really put you through your paces.
Yes. The photography is spectacular, though. I love looking at your social media and seeing all those really spectacular photos. They're stunning. Love that. So what's on the cards for you, my love? Can you share, or is it a little bit top secret, or what are you currently working on?
We're still in edit and design on the Avalon Soul Stream Oracle. So hopefully that will be completed soon, and it will be off to the printers. And of course, that was something that I knew so well because of my time in Avalon now and
Yes.
before.
Yeah.
And I tried to incorporate that into it, as well as a lot of the contemporary things that people
Okay.
experience there. Because I mean, it's so popular. People come from all over the world to come to Glastonbury, not the festival, but the town, because of its
Yes.
historical significance and the Chalice Well and the energies, which are Atlantean. They're very old, very, very old. And people can feel it. I mean, there'll be times when the streets will be teeming with thousands of people, like on Beltane. You can't even
Yes.
walk up the street, but you can still feel the energy. It doesn't get diluted, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really powerful.
It's on the bucket list. I haven't been there yet. I can't wait to visit the White Spring and the Red Spring and the
Mm.
tour and just the beautiful town. And so excited to do that. That's definitely a special trip that I will be taking at some
Oh,
point.
good. I'll see
Yeah.
you there.
I hope so. Oh, I'd love
Mm,
that. That would be
mhm,
so great.
mhm.
I love that you're working on that deck. That sounds just so beautiful and so appropriate and so relevant to your journey. I just can't wait for that to come out.
There's a
Is
lot
this
of,
yeah, there's a lot.
sorry,
Yeah.
a lot of
I was,
masculine and feminine divinity in it. It's very balanced that way with the green man. You know, there's actual physical green men of Glastonbury who carry the maypole up the street, and they're very active with a masculine spirituality. So it's pretty balanced, this deck. It's for men and women.
I love that. I think it's so important to have that balance, duality, bringing the ancient wisdom into the here and now. You're speaking my language, Cheryl. It's
Mm.
just so beautiful. Is there something you would like to share? Like, is there something you would like to say to our audience? Have you got a message for the sacred now that could be really relevant to the collective?
I think the most important thing people need to realize is that the more they engage in a digital and virtual reality world, that our senses as human beings will begin to atrophy from lack
Yes,
of something tangible, like
yes,
creating art. So it could be any kind of art, but the more you do it, you keep that alive in a human being, otherwise it's going to disappear. We will lose our ability to create. So there's just nothing that can simulate art, they can simulate the mystical experience electronically, but it's never the same.
it's never
So
the
there's just
same.
nothing to compare the
Yes,
source coming through the
yes.
brush to the canvas. You just can't simulate that. And I just want people to know and remember that they have to keep creating, whether it's music, writing, whatever, because otherwise, in a couple of generations, that ability will be lost. And that's happened, I believe, in other races. It's just we can't depend so much on AI and digital art. You know?
I think
And
that's a
I know
brilliant
people will
message.
disagree with me,
Oh, well,
but
I
I
agree with
feel
you.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
so important for the human race.
It's so important. And when you create it, it's so much more authentic, powerful,
Mhm.
sacred, magical. And I I so respect you because you know, you're the artist, you're the author. Um, and you know, when you bring those two together, the synergy between the art and the sacred text, the words, the channeling, is so profound. And I absolutely love that you know, your card art are spectacular paintings. I mean, it's just magnificent. I just think, and I so agree with you. I think, look, you know, AI is here to stay and it can make things easier to a certain extent, but I think it's so important that we don't rely on it, that we don't lose our
Yes.
way, that
And
we
we need
don't.
power over it. We can't let it have power over us.
Exactly. I think we need to remember that we're in control of it. It's not in control of us.
Mm.
And that's just such a juicy topic all on its own. I love that you brought that up, by the way. Yeah.
I think it's
And it
getting more and
needs to
more
be said.
important. Yes.
Yes, it does.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's speeding everything up as well when really the most profound insights come through when we get still, when we slow down, when we connect to spirit, to nature. Absolutely. So I'm so glad you brought that up. Thank you so much for coming on today. Your contact
Thank you,
details,
Suzy.
yeah, oh, I just loved it. Your contact details will be in the show notes. But how do our listeners find you, Cheryl? What's the best way for that to happen?
Best way would be Facebook or on my website, but email because we travel so much. You know,
Yes,
the phones are always changing and it's just easier by email because we always have our computers with us. So it's Cheryl at cherylrose.com.
beautiful. And I love that you're that, you know, that traveler, you know, that you kind of have a global perspective on things. It's so beautiful. I'm so grateful for you coming on today. Congratulations on your magnificent work. I'm so excited to see, you know, what you birth, what gorgeous soulful project you birth out into the world next. And thank you so much, my love.
Oh, thank you, Suzy. It was really wonderful to meet you.